Well, there I am. I look pretty pissed, don't I? I can't remember why. All I know is this wasn't a bad Thursday.
Greetings all and welcome. Now if you're like me on a much bigger YouTuber JonTron, you're probably a huge fan of Rare. And when news came out that Rare was helping supply the audio and help with the steps alongside Team Dakota for an episodic Conker game, then you probably got hyped. Well, these are the top 5 reasons why they pissed on your parade. Number 5. The humour and the satire. The humour of the original Conker was very British, silly but smart, and to me I would say Conker's Bad Fur Day is synonymous to the Naked Gun franchise. No matter how long it's been, going back and playing Conker's Bad Fur Day is still funny, and the jokes are well hidden and there's a reference without stating the obvious. Like when you kill the great mighty Pooh and he quotes a line familiar to the Wizard of Oz by saying I'm flushing, as opposed to the classic line, I'm melting, I'm melting. But in Conker's Big Reunion, the jokes feel narcissistic and self-indulgent. With Conker going, these developers are great, sounds more like a line that Bubsy 3D would shout, not Conker. And the satire is also a masquerade. Like for a quintessential point, there's a line when Conker's in the barrel, and he says, well, looks like we ran out of the budget on a cardboard box then. And then he states the obvious, thus tarnishing the joke by prolonging it throughout the entire level. Now just imagine if you've seen John Bishop live and after every joke he shouts at the audience, I'm a comedian, that was a joke, did you get it, let me tell you another. Truth be told, it wouldn't be funny, and that's where the humour falls flat. Also on a non sequitur note, the original game was wrote in a somewhat stereotypical British night out, so the jokes flow together coherently. In this script, the jokes don't have any cohesion and thus felt disjointed from one another. Number 4. The script. Now this one has to do with having a clear vision in mind first, something that the talented Chris Saver and Robin Beanland both had. And that brings me on to Chris. In an interview it stated that Chris wrote the script for Conker's Other Bad Fur Day, aka Conker 2, before remaking the original Conker for the Xbox. The story would delve into the inner demons and background of these characters. You would find more out about Greg, Birdie would die, Conker got arrested. It was interesting stuff. So that begs a question. If Team Dakota got the rights to make a Conker game and got Chris Saver on board to play Conker again, why didn't they use this script? Because after playing through Conker's Big Reunion, there really isn't a story, just fan service to its predecessor. Or what's that? You want to know why I said predecessor? Well, that's number 3. Number 3. This is canonical. Right, so the story behind Conker's Big Reunion takes place 10 years after Conker's Bad Fur Day, meaning this isn't a side project, this is part of Conker's canon. Now to really understand why this will annoy people, allow me to do a quick history lesson. Rare was founded by Chris Saver and his mates in 1985, and then Microsoft bought them in 2002 and asked Chris and his team to make a few projects for their new console. This will include the cancelled Urchin, the canned Ordinary Joe, the discontinued Savannah, and of course the Conker sequel. When the time came for Conker, it was getting near the end of the original Xbox's life cycle, as a new machine was coming. So the team had an ultimatum. Do we remake the original Conker with new graphics, polish it up a bit, add a few new jokes, put in an online portion and add a backstory of how the Weasel ended up in a wheelchair? Or do we make Conker 2? Well, they went with the former instead of the latter, a statement even Chris Saver himself said was a bad decision. But I frickin' love Conker's Live and Reloaded, and that was part of the reason I, like many others, waited anxiously for the sequel. And that's why the Team Dakota one being canonical really feels like a hit in the face. Number 2. Aesthetics and swearing. This is the first thing message boards and many fans complained about. And you know what? Fair dues to them. They are correct. The original Xbox version from 2005 looks better than the Project Spark version. That's just a fact, and on my own personal opinion, I don't know why they used that engine. Was it time constraints? Was Microsoft competing with Sony's Little Big Planet? Was this because they were a new studio? We will never know. All I know for certain is if you love Chris Saver's voice and want to see a great Conker game from the original team with the intelligence behind it and you don't have an N64, go on eBay and buy Conker's Live and Reload it and play it on your Xbox 360. Also, one more thing before we move on to the penultimate number one reason. There's no swearing in Conker's Big Reunion. That's one thing I hate. Now don't get me wrong, profanity doesn't solve everything, but the fact of the matter is, the original Conker stood out because it was an adult cartoon game when at the time the market was oversaturated with child-friendly video game mascots like Mario, Banjo and Sonic. Conker gave an edge and really walked a fine line between smart and juvenile, but with Conker's Big Reunion it could easily slip under the cracks of being another child-friendly platformer with an anthropomorphic protagonist. And now, number 1. Guidance and characters. The original Conker was excellently crafted. You had a hub world which looked an awful lot familiar to Banjo's Spiral Mountain. The story was linear but set in this hub world, so throughout your adventure different doors would open, giving a sense of being a small cog in a much bigger mechanism. You always got to see how your actions were taking effect on the strategies of the Panther King's devious plan. But in Conker's Big Reunion there's no guidance. All the doors are open straight away, so there's nothing linking each segment to the last, and thus it comes across like you're playing a selection of mini-games instead of embarking on an adventure. And finally, the characters. There is none. You think I'm joking? I'm not. The original game had more focus on the obscure characters you would come across than Conker himself, making each encounter unique and giving a sense that you, a lot like Conker, are coming across these strange creatures for the first time, like an actual journey, and had plenty of variety in the cast. It was very reminiscent to the Lord of the Rings movies, as in there's these characters that are just as cool as the last one, but have very little to say. The shorter the performance, the deeper the impact, like the trees, and like the poo monster. I can still remember in Conker's Bad Fur Day the unusual supporting cast. The fire imps, the poo monster, the caveman, the catfish, and of course Berry. But in Conker's Big Reunion it goes Birdie, Teddies, Conker, that's it. No new characters, no bizarre designs, and no enticing conversations, just Teddies and Birdie. And that's my personal reasons why if you're a fan of the original game, you will be disappointed with Big Reunion. And if you have played the game, you also know why the title is misleading and a misrepresentation of the product. Thank you for watching, and until the next video, goodbye.